Welcome everybody to another episode or welcome back if you're watching or listening again to Metal Medesco. We have another awesome guest today. We have Sonia. She's a first-gen Latinx tax pro. So I'm super excited to learn more about her journey, her story, experiences, all of that. So with that being said, Sonia, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to also, share who I am, my mission, and what actually led me here because I know that especially for those who are first geners who can resonate through the obstacles that
Yeah.
we have, especially with the big responsibility of being, I guess you can say, a leader
Mm-hmm.
um to the family, especially if you have siblings. So
Mm.
it's a huge it's what do you say? It it's scary, but I know that we're able to showcase our strength and and also obviously share like what we have in terms of confidence to let people know like wow, she was able to combat through all of those
Yeah.
challenges and be
And be a role model. For
yeah, and
sure.
that
For sure. I think that's interesting that you say that the first gen experience. It's honestly, I feel like it's something I need to learn more about, at least like other people's experiences. And recently, I've been reading this book called Uncolonized Latinas, which I think is like a perfect book to understand the first gen experience. And she like tells stories about other people and all of that. So it's been interesting and definitely something we're gonna talk about. But for now, or for the first question is, how did you get started in like being a tax pro? Like what were like is this something that you always wanted to do? What were the experiences that kind of led to what you're doing now?
oh yes. Okay. So brace yourself, you guys. So this might be you'll probably be tuning in for the next 5 minutes to hear my story. But yeah, basically what led me to be where I am is that I actually after having my first corporate job, and this was around 2015, I started off as a marketing and data assistant and you know
Mm,
honestly, I was, excelling pretty quickly as I was getting promoted within. And I made some really great connections with
yeah.
my workers. Eventually, I started to fall for the
Mm,
trend of looking like part of a corporate woman
mm,
where I was at. And basically, I was just buying like the latest fall and spring outfits, shoes,
mm,
jewelry, you name it.
yeah.
And while I was, promoting pretty quickly, I saw that my salary was increasing. And when my
Mm,
salary increased, so did my spending habits. And on top of that, I have decided to balls up and move out of my parents' place just because after being in corporate at that time already, I believe I was already year two. I decided it was just time for me to just go my separate ways. I also didn't have a really good relationship with my parents as soon as I graduated from college, just because obviously I'm being born. So they were very you can say they were being very conservative with where I was going, what I was doing, because
mm,
they were so used to maintaining, I guess, power over me because
mm,
I
mm.
obviously will always be the one to go to school, do my homework, go straight home, make
The
sure
good
that
girl.
I'm watching over my siblings, making
Mm.
sure there's food on the table for them. So it
Oh,
was a lot of responsibility. And so they wanted to make sure, I guess, that I continue to be like that
be that
after.
role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's was something that I just could not do anymore. Especially at that time, I was already 21, and I was like, no, I already have a good paying job. I don't need to be around here. Like I want to be free. And
Mm-hmm.
so I decided to get a studio apartment in Stamford, Connecticut. And at that time, that where it was my job was. And that, obviously when I moved, I started to hang out more with my friends, obviously with my coworkers, like
Mm.
almost every weekend
Oh wow.
for food and drinks. And honestly, that led me to have this party life.
Mm.
It got so bad though that I had to end up borrow money from my sister.
Oh
You guys,
wow.
that's really tough because I had to set aside my pride, especially as first gen, to be asking my sibling for money. And that was because I couldn't afford to pay my rent on time. And that was
Oh.
all because I was trying to keep up with this party life as soon as I moved out of my parents' home. And
Yeah.
I realized that my finances was getting out of control. So obviously my sister told me straight up, like, Sonia, you need to start budgeting. And this is someone who I was already probably 20, 23, 24. And
Wow.
she at that time was already 21. She was just like, you got to get your crap
Oh
together.
wow.
So that's what happened. I decided, she's right. I am someone who obviously got to showcase to obviously to my siblings, like, that I have to be financially stable. And
Yeah.
so I decided to go on YouTube and Instagram for finance guidance.
Mm.
And after learning how to budget and knock down my credit card debt that I was accumulating
Oh
for
my
the
god.
past few years, I came across an opportunity to become a licensed tax professional. So, as I mentioned in the very beginning, I was also a data analyst or data assistant, and eventually I ended up being a data analyst. And so I was already very comfortable with working with very large data and numbers, obviously. And I figure, well, I like doing numbers. I like crunching them. I love the finance portion, especially because I am going through my own financial journey. Why not give this opportunity of becoming a licensed tax professional shot? So I will tell you this, okay? It was not an easy journey. In fact, tax school kicked my ass.
Oh wow.
But I know that when I was learning the tax code, I just was so mind blown how the wealthy Americans was using some of the tax strategies to their advantage,
Yeah.
which became such an intriguing factor for me because I was like, if they can do this, so can anyone out. And I knew that I have to do this. I have to learn and teach my community, especially who I help now is the BIPOC community. And my goal was to help them understand how the tax system work in a very simple way without the jargon. Because as you probably already know, the tax system is a very
I'm
complex.
I'm gonna be asking you some tax questions.
Shoot them up right away after. But yeah, I mean, it's a very complex system. And I do try my very best to, simplify and make sure that a simple taxpayer with a very short attention span, because I'll tell you guys, my attention span is like a 5-year old. So you got to really dumb it down for me. And I knew that I wasn't the only one in this case.
Yeah.
And for me to just try to come up with ways to just continue to help the BIPOC community understand how taxes work, and then eventually learning how to implement some of the tax strategies as well that's catered to their tax situation, because your
It's not the
personal
same.
tax is personal, same thing as personal finance, it's personal. So we got to make sure that when we're putting together a plan that it will benefit you in your case, because not every situation, not every case is the same. Believe it or not, I have come across numerous circumstances where I had to like make adjustments just so that they are able to just keep up on their end, meeting their tax obligation, but also trying to keep more money in their pocket.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of what led me to becoming a tax professional. I started off with accumulating debt, and then I decided to go on a debt-free journey, which then led me to come across this opportunity to become a tax professional. And now what I have going on is a mission that I have become so passionate because I love the line of work that I have going on, that I decided to continue to help the BIPOC community, especially for entrepreneurs who are just starting to implement tax strategies so that they're able to reduce their tax liability, but also keep more money in their pocket so that they're able to expand their financial portfolios. And because I was so passionate of my role as a tax pro that I have decided to bet on myself and quit my damn corporate job as of May of 2022, which this was last year.
No, I was gonna start clapping. It's still an achievement.
Oh my God, it's such an incredible, honestly, it was such an incredible achievement for me because it's a ballsy move. But I knew that by sticking around working for the man, I knew that I was going to continue to be unhappy, especially with the direction they were going with, just because they tend to care more of the big players, the multimillionaires. And me, I really want to continue to help the little people, which is like obviously those who are down on the very bottom, you know, someone who are in the low or middle class family. And I want to make sure that they're not alone, especially because, as I mentioned, taxes can be a very scary and complex system. And so I wanted to make sure that people understand, like they know their rights, they implement the codes that is obviously they're eligible for legally, and making sure they're also in a good spot as well. So that's why I ended up quitting my corporate job to go full time. And a year later, I have no regrets.
Oh, that's how, with the quitting your job, like how was that experience? Like, can you go like deeper into that? And then like what were others saying too? And did that influence your decision as well?
Yeah. So right before I decided that I wanted to leave my 9 to 5 job, I had actually created a game plan where I was going to use my business profit. And mind you, I was already in year three in my business. As I was seeing growth within my with my tax business, that I wanted to build a 12-month emergency fund as a safety cushion to cover my fixed expenses in case if I go full time as an entrepreneur, if it doesn't go according to plan, at least I have the finance for me to help me keep me in a good financial place. And so honestly, initially, I was planning on staying in corporate America until December 2022. But my micromanager was such a pain in the ass. Like I couldn't stand working with her anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I decided to pull the trigger earlier than
7 months. 7 months earlier. That's crazy.
So, and that's where I decided May, that was it. I had it. And at that time, I believe I only had 6 months of savings in emergency funds. But I knew that I was no longer happy where I was at. And I knew I had to get out because it was taking a mental toll as well on me. And when that happens, that affects not only my, my personal life, but it also affects my business as well. And I'll be quite honest too. I thought too, when I decided to pull the trigger in May, that my business is going to boom. It's going to continue to boom because I was seeing the trend of these on demand stuff from my clients, and I figure, I'm going to be okay in the summer and at the end of the year. Let me tell you this: I was so wrong. I was so wrong, and I should have known better, especially because I was already in year 3, right? In my business, tax season is usually January to April, and the summer and towards the end of the year, it's gonna either be slow or there's gonna be no activity. And so, but I'm over here thinking, well, me being the optimistic person that I am, no, I don't offer just tax preparation. I offer bookkeeping as well. I offer tax planning. I know people are gonna want that. Nope. There was not much demand during the summer, and then my savings was depleting pretty quickly. And after a while, I honestly became really depressed because at that time, and this was already probably towards the end of the summer, maybe early beginning of the fall, where I was starting to doubt myself because I'm here thinking, wow, damn, Sonia, you gave up your full-time job with benefits to go full on your business, and you are seeing little to no revenue. And at that point, I was ready to go back to the office life. I was ready to jump on LinkedIn, on Indeed, and start applying. Because honestly, I was ready to just throw the towel and revert back to that life, even though I originally left it because I was so tired of the corporate life. But before I went to that route, I ended up going to a networking event in October last year called FinCon. Not sure if you are familiar with FinCon, no. But FinCon basically is a networking event for finance creators, whether you're big or small. And that's where we all come together. We start talking about content creation, life experience, and even money, because obviously that's what we're all here for, right? As finance creators, we talk about money. And when I met numerous creators, especially the ones that I have followed personally on Instagram and had connected them through DMs, to be able to just meet them in person was, oh my goodness, it definitely brightened up my mood. And because of them, they really inspire me to keep thinking forward, not backwards. And even several of them were once in my shoes too, where they took the leap of faith by betting on themselves, and they are thriving to a point where I'm like, wow, I was able to follow them in the very beginning of their journey, where they just started off with probably like 120 followers. Now they have over 100K. They have these brand or sponsorship deals. They are collabing with some of the biggest financial institutions, such as Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Goldman Sachs, Chase Bank. Like that, I was I was just so blown away and inspired that I was just like, wow, like they were able to embrace like all these opportunities with them. And that was all because they had to obviously face head on like that change. And I would tell you, yes, change is very, very scary, but we have to embrace it because yeah, being uncomfortable as change can be, it does, it can be, again, it can be very nerve-wracking, but it does ultimately lead to a more positive life changes and like new ways of thinking. Because now, again, as I was meeting with all the creators, they were telling me, you gotta think the future forward, because if you continue to think back in the future or thinking these what if, you're going to be stuck in that same cycle over and over again in terms of mindset. So you just got to keep looking straight ahead. And honestly too, with change, it's going to open up so many doors. And that's what happened to me. It took a while, but after that event, I was like, I had a game plan. I was like, all right, Sonia, this is what you're going to do over the next few weeks. You're going to build up your content. You're going to go head on strong. You're going to use yourself as a marketing tool to go and do more video content on Instagram. That's where I usually do my tax content on. And I'm going to continue to attract a following, build my own community, because I do have a mission, and that mission is what's becoming such a huge driving force for me to just even go head on with some of the bigger goals that I had in mind. And over a few weeks, I was able to land more bookkeeping clients. I was able to land more tax planning clients. And then come January of this year, holy crap, my business just skyrocketed because I had all of these requests of people asking for work. They were more so asking for tax strategists to help them make sure that what they have on their previous return, obviously their current return, making sure that they're in good standing, they're meeting their tax obligation, making sure that they don't owe the tax man anything. And if they do, what are some of the steps that we can avoid being in that same situation the following year? And honestly, this is where I was able to hire contractors to help me with the ongoing demand that I had, because I was like, I guess because I have upped up my marketing and on my Instagram and able to obviously continue to network with many people, word of mouth had definitely helped out, as well as my social media presence. And I will say this year alone, I think right now, as of like 2 days ago, I am looking to hit my revenue goal for the first time, where I'm just so damn happy. And that was all because I have shifted the mindset of thinking forward, not looking back, and also continue to help my community as well. Because when they see the passion that you have, especially in your profession, they know they found someone who is really good and will go beyond customers relations
Yeah.
to help folks be in a good place. Because as I mentioned, taxes is a scary, scary
Mm-hmm.
thing, and people want to make sure, especially for those who are in the Latinx community. You know, you probably grew up with your parents say, "Don't get yourself in trouble with the government, because if you do, you're gonna get in trouble." And
Yeah.
especially if you're someone who's undocumented, it's the fear of like they're gonna report you
Yeah.
to immigration, you're gonna be sent off back to your country, all this stuff, and that's not the case. In fact, the tax system has nothing to do with immigration, and for the most part, okay, unless you're in the process of getting your residency, then yes, then obviously you have to report your tax returns in order to qualify. But for the most part, whatever you do when it comes to your tax situation, don't worry, they're not going to report you to the government unless you do something very shady,
Yeah.
like you're avoiding or not reporting any information that should have been reported in your return. But yeah,
Mm.
I mean, that's kind of where I, how, me quitting my job, it had impacted me because it did leave me, shifting my mindset towards the opposite side.
Yeah.
I'm someone who is very optimistic, someone who's always trying to keep a very upbeat and positive attitude. But by me just betting on myself, it was very scary, and it did take a lot of unlearning to know that I
Yeah.
am good at what I'm doing, and I know my worth. I know what I can bring to the table for my community as well. It's just that I have to just think ahead and
Yeah.
make sure that I'm hitting my goals, because once you hit those avenues, it's gonna boost up your confidence. And that's what I
Yeah. The
needed. I
small
needed
wins.
that
Yeah.
boost of confidence to help me keep going, because now look, here I am a year later. I have no regrets quitting my job. I really do not have no regrets. I'm hitting my revenue goal. And if
Yeah.
anything, next year I already have a game plan, because now I am going to have a hopefully, not hopefully, it will
It
happen.
will. Yes,
The word.
manifestation.
I will have a team that's going to help me with a lot of the preparation side, so that way I can, continue to keep up with the demand, but
Yeah.
also help with high level executive clients that I have in mind, that I really want to just help them level up, just because I was with them in the very beginning in their business journey,
Yeah.
where they started out with little revenue, and then they ended up making 5 to 6 figures, then becoming S corp entities, and now they're already projected to make literally a quarter million and more. And so that
Holy crap.
is where I would like to continue to help them, because now more than ever, there's going to be a lot of nuisance, especially when it comes
Yeah.
to businesses who are in the high income level range. We got to make sure that everything seems to go according to what we had in terms of projected plans for them, making sure
Yeah.
that they are not in debt, because obviously as a business owner, you want to make sure you continue to make money, and also making sure that you're meeting your tax obligations. So
Yeah.
it's obviously going to be me more hands-on with them, but I definitely want to reassure them that I'm there by themselves. And then also making sure that the clients that I have currently too, they're in good hands, especially if I'm going to have a team who
Yeah.
is going to take care of them on my behalf. So that way everything's in good order, because
Mm-hmm.
I want to continue to just, grow as myself,
Yeah.
as a business owner, just because I know there's going to be so much opportunities when I myself level up as well.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask you. I have two questions from that. It's like one from the clients that you had, and you like seeing their growth. I imagine could be like super inspiring, super motivating. So how much has that influenced you? Like, like are the conversation are the conversations that you have with them, like, do they in a way like help you, like, oh, you could do this in your business, like, is there like a some like guidance in there, or is it just like you helping them with their taxes, or is it like a conversation that you can also learn from them? Because I imagine like going from zero revenue to like hitting almost $250,000, that's crazy, and something that honestly, like, at least I still can't wrap my head around it. Like, I still don't understand how people be making like $1 million in a month. Like, it's still like I could barely make $2,000 in a month. So it's like it just no, like, no like I don't understand. So for you, like, seeing those cases and you like looking at their finances, like, how does that feel and how has that influenced? That would be my first question. How does that feel and how has that influenced your business?
Yeah. So when I'm seeing a growth, this is where I have to myself change my mindset to like, okay, they're no longer down in the bottom. They're now in the
Mm.
mid and high level. Now I
Mm-hmm.
have to think at that level too. And it's not easy because it does require additional research. I got to make sure that where they're at too, that I'm not utilizing the same strategy that I am for, like, you can say, like, entry level folks. I got
Yeah.
to make sure now it's in the mid and high level folks. And so it's a lot to keep up. But when I asked, like, how the heck did you just go from, I don't know, 2K to like 200K? Like, most of them tell me, Sonia, it's all because of marketing, word of mouth. And it's true. You yourself is a marketing tool. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know for some folks it can be very, very scary to show your face, but just
Yeah.
know that you are the face of your business, of your company. They are, yes, they might be buying the product and service that you provide, but they're also buying you as well. And so when they tell me, like, Sonia, I just use myself. I'm really good with, editing on my videos too. Like, or
Mm-hmm.
some folks, they say, Sonia, I decided to outsource because I couldn't keep up because of the demand. They, when them taking on, obviously that requires some, you spending a little bit more. But when you spend a little bit more, just know that you are investing back in your business
Investing, yeah.
because you are seeing a vision of your business where it can expand, it can scale to a
Yeah.
whole nother level. But in order to do so, you just kind of have to just make sure that you are investing in the right areas. And when they
Yeah.
were discussing me, especially because they tell me their goals, like when we go through like their profit and loss statements, their finances, and I tell them that they have left over, they usually tell me, Sonia, do you think it's a good idea that the leftover net profit that I have, can I hire an assistant? Because I can't do this alone. Can I hire a videographer or a video editor?
Yeah.
Can I hire a family member to help me with this? I'm like, yeah, you have net profit. If anything, like, shift that income elsewhere. As long as, if you feel like by you getting or spending money in those areas is going to help you expand, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be here to help you. We'll make sure we have these. I usually like to have these monthly conversations because I just want to
Mm-hmm.
get an idea of where your business is going at and to make sure you're
Definitely.
not in, like, shortfalling.
Yeah.
And I'm blown away because some people, just a low, even one person hiring an assistant really helped them a lot. That
Oh.
they were able to focus on other areas that's going to help continue to build or make more money for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, like, heck, I think I should start consider outsourcing myself because it's hard. And I know, like, I myself have this vision. I see my business going into the six-figure range, in order to do so, I gotta reinvest my money back instead of
Yeah.
being myself. Let me see if I can use this leftover net profit to hire an assistant. And which I did eventually. I ended up hiring an admin. Oh my goodness, she's so great. She's such a lifesaver, and I'm so thankful. And that was all because I saw other business owners do that. It was just to help reduce those tasks so that you can focus on other tasks that's going to generate you money. And so that's what I needed to do. I needed an admin to help me with more of the back end stuff, the inquiries, someone who can help me with the social media side, at least with the posting, the editing of my video, because I can go jump on video at any
Mm-hmm.
time, but the editing costs me time. And that's what they say, time is money. And
Yep.
so when I could use those editing times towards my clients, making sure that I'm meeting their deadlines, I'm making sure I'm completing their bookkeeping or their tax planning report before the end of the quarter to make sure that they're able to, you know, we can discuss about strategies in terms before making that quarterly payment to the taxman. And so, oh my God, I'm so thankful for it. Because shout out to my assistant, Cecilia. She's been so amazing. She's been with me for a year now. She's been so great. And I also realized too, right, when I'm having these conversations with these business owners,
Yes.
that, hey, Sonia, I'm also thinking of hiring a business coach, but they're asking for a little bit more than what I had in mind. But let me know if you think that's a good business decision. And I'm like, well, from a financial perspective, I can tell you this. If you're gonna spend like, let's say, believe me, some coaches are asking for like 20 grand or more.
Yeah.
But especially if you're in the mid or high level in terms of your business, I usually would say, it's really up to you. And at that time, I don't know because I'm not that at that I'm not scaling myself yet, but I know what I've seen already is, it's up to you. If you really feel like working with this particular person is going to help you make your monies back plus more, like, go ahead. I don't know this business coach, but if you're so passionate about that person, and I can tell when they explain to me who they are considering hiring as a business coach and what they can bring to the
Like
table,
the
I'm like, you know
admiration.
what? Yeah. I'm like, follow your heart then. I mean, I will say this, you do have the net profit. Go ahead. Like,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
money. Go for
yeah,
it.
it's money, but if you feel like it's gonna help you double, triple your revenue when you work with this individual, by all means, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It, I'm telling you, by them working with a business coach too, I have seen the revenue double, triple. I was like, damn, like, and that's my next goal, honestly, for
Get a
myself.
business coach.
We're hiring a business coach. In fact, I actually do have a business coach. Um, and she actually does have goals for me, but she has an asking price. So this is
Mm-hmm.
where I have to look on my end, and also from experience with other business owners who were in a similar situation. Is it going to be worth it? Because this is a big
Mm-hmm.
investment, at least for me. Like, am I willing to use what I have left over to reinvest back with this person? No,
Yeah.
hoping, not hoping. She's telling me she will, that she's going to help me double, get my money back and double. And I'm like,
Oh.
okay. So it's a lot of thinking. But I will say this, spoiler alert, I am going to move forward with her. So I am going to reinvest what I have
Hey.
to her.
We're gonna have you back next year. It's like, yo, I have $100,000 business.
That is the goal. And she has these plans for me because she hears what my future goal is, my 3 to 5 year plan, and she's like,
Yeah.
I can get you there. And in fact, based on your trend already, and I'm not trying to brag about my business,
No,
right?
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. Go for it. Keep bragging. Yeah, yeah.
But I will say this, right? When I first started my business, I made $6,000 in revenue.
Okay.
Year two, I doubled.
So,
Last year, I doubled. This
three,
year,
four.
I double, even more, maybe
Okay.
even 10% more. Like, so you see where I first started at $6,000,
Yeah.
I'm going to hit my revenue goal of 60K by the end of the year.
Wow.
A little over. So I am so damn happy. And that's why I'm already seeing a trend on my end. I'm continuously to double. My
Mm-hmm.
goal for next year, and I know this is high, but I want to double that. I want to be in the six figures because I know I'm ready for that. For that, I'm so ready.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready for the challenge. Obviously, I'm gonna have to go extra hard, but I've seen this already with other entrepreneurs who I have worked with, where they're
Mm-hmm.
doing so well financially. Like, I want to be there too. I want to be
Yeah.
right there, and also I already learned from experience. I already know like the tax implications behind it. I already know what I have to do from a
Mm-hmm.
financial perspective as well, because I already had gone through that journey with them, that I am ready
Yeah.
to now implement that on my business myself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's yeah. I mean, I know. I'm gonna have you back next year, and it's like it's not even gonna be 100,000, maybe like $200,000. But it's and I remember this from Joe Dispenza. I heard it from another podcast, but they mentioned that Joe. I don't know if you know who Joe Dispenza. He's like a neuroscientist, I think. But he says his phrase is like, "Remember the future," because sometimes we forget about like we tend to be in the past, or like our thoughts are pretty most of the time they're like negative, right? So he's like, remember the future, and remember the future means like think about what you want your future to be. The $200,000 k income, or like would it be income or like revenue? I don't
I usually say revenue.
revenue. Okay, $200,000 like revenue, like it's and just like think like where do you want to be, and sometimes we don't think about it because we're like, oh, am I gonna be able to? Am I good enough? You start having these doubts, and actually there's this. I have like my little notebook where I take my podcast notes, and there's this one I also listened to with Lewis House and Price Prickett, I believe, and he was like, if you must doubt something, doubt your limits. And I thought that was like so awesome because like we have so many doubts and we tend to like think about is it possible, but it's like no, like doubt your own, like doubt your limits, like yeah. I don't think I could explain it more. Like he explains it like perfectly, and yeah, it's just awesome. Like for you, what has been like? I think for me, I've been thinking about a lot about time and like how time goes so fast, and either you could stay in the same like time go so quick and you still be in the same spot, or things can change like can change either like little but it's like significant to us, or it could change a lot and it's still like very significant to us. So for you, what has been like some of those things, some either like limiting beliefs or just in general like actual like physical stuff that have changed in your life and you're like holy crap, that's crazy, like you thinking about it is like you still can't believe it, but it's true.
Yes. So I will say this. A year later, after quitting my job, I did not expect it to be like this right now in a good way, meaning like,
Mm-hmm.
holy crap. I was able to literally take a chance on myself and hit that goal that I had in mind. And that was all because I was shifting my mindset to like, what if, like, to no, it will happen. We're going to
Yes.
make that happen. And another thing, too, is just again changing what you say to yourself. As I mentioned, I hope to I will,
Mm-hmm.
because that is going to become such a huge influence because you're actually literally training your brain
Yeah.
to think like forward, like, oh no, this is going to happen. We're gonna make this happen no matter what. I know it's gonna be a headache. I know it's gonna be it's gonna be lots of laughs and cries, mostly
Mm-hmm.
crying, mostly tears, but it's going to happen. And as long as you shift that mindset, that's going to help. And I will say this shout out to my business coach for helping me think that way,
Mm-hmm.
because he says like what you're doing when you're changing that, you're attracting what you are asking for, believe it or
Mm-hmm.
not. And I do believe that
Manifestation.
manifestation, like,
Yes.
and that's what I was manifesting like last year. I'm not gonna lie, when I thought about going back to an office job, in fact I didn't even tell nobody besides those who I met at the networking event at FinCon
Mm-hmm.
last year. I only told a handful of people that I quit my job, and that was because, believe it or not, I thought I was gonna go back. I honestly thought I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna go back to a 9 to 5, but
Yeah.
somewhere else. And so I didn't want to publicly announce it and then have it used against me if a future
Yeah.
employee saw that and they're like, wait a minute, you went and proudly announced you quit your damn job because you hate corporate America, and now you're
I
here
back.
in our interview room trying to get a job. So I was
That's
like,
funny.
so yeah, so I was just like, I know that um if I that's not what I want, that I have to go head on into my business because this is
Mm-hmm.
going to be basically
Yes.
my only main source of income. I have another small business, which is a pet sitting business, but that's
Mm-hmm.
like a supplemental income. I know that my main one is my tax
Yeah.
business. That's what generates the biggest revenue. And that's what's actually paying me comfortably to myself on a monthly basis. And so I was able to, because of the mindset shift, I was able to just kind of be where I am now. And I'm really happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really happy. I will say though, that I will say this too, like therapy also helped.
Okay.
Like just talking to a therapist, I know that I have seen huge growth over, especially over the past few months, because now I'm learning to finally let things go. And I'm someone who did not want to let go of a lot of things. I was someone who was, if anything, I was always hogging. Especially when it comes to work, I was
Mm.
always hogging it myself. I was like, no, 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 I'm gonna just take care of it myself. Because again,
Okay.
that first
First
gen
gen.
mindset is like,
Yeah.
well, I've been doing this myself for plenty of years. Yes, it's a freaking headache, but you know what? I'm gonna make it work because that's how I've been doing. That's how I was able to survive in life. I was
Mm-hmm.
just winging it and making it work. And I realized like that was obviously it was very bad for my mental health. So I knew
Yeah.
that I had to let go of that. And also, I had to learn to love myself again, just
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't love yourself, you're going to be stuck in this cycle of guilt, regret, what ifs, because you're, having all these doubts. And so I know by loving myself, that's going to boost up my confidence as not just as an individual, but also as a business owner as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because people can see, they can read off your energy if something is wrong. And when you give off that type of energy, some people might just turn the other way, or they might be like, I don't think I want to work with that individual. It's just like you're turning away
Mm-hmm.
people that could be help, like that could really need your help, but you're just giving
Yeah.
up this energy that don't fit right with them, and now they're going to go elsewhere, and you just lost out on a potential client or on a potential friend who could
Yeah.
have been really there for you. So yeah, so that was kind of like one of the obstacles that I definitely, well, to this day will continue to overcome. And more importantly too, especially with my business coach who's helping me with this process from the business side, is trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't ever let doubt get in your way. I will say this: imposter syndrome is a real bitch, but I know that if I just have, if I continue to think very positively about myself and as a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
then the process that I'm going to be in is going to lead me to such a greater opportunity that is going to be endless.
Yeah,
So
for
yeah.
sure. And I think you hit it right where repetition is key, because again we have a certain set of experiences that led to a lot of thoughts which now became our beliefs, and most of them can be limiting beliefs about ourselves. So we repeated that so much that that's why we believe it, and then us changing that thought and then you saying having that positive mindset, and then repeating those like good limiting beliefs of like I love myself, I'm good enough, I'm worth it, me lo merezco, stuff like that, like repeating it every single day, you unconsciously start making that shift. And that's when that those changes, like things start happening and you're like, holy crap, I didn't know this was possible, or holy crap, like this is awesome, that just like this just happened to me and I can't believe it, but it did. And that's when you start getting that self-confidence, because you start making those small wins and then bigger wins and then even huger wins that you never thought was possible. And I think it's interesting that I say this because right now I'm in the process of like, I know things can happen, I know changes, like if I just work on it, like things can change for the better. But I'm still in that process of like, can it really change, like for me? Just because I've never seen anybody, like I've never met millionaires, so I've never met someone who's making 100K, and like even in a regular job, like the only person in my family who has a 9 to 5 is my cousin, and she hates her job. So it's like I have no good role models. So, and I think you also mentioned how you went to that networking event with the FinCon. I also recently went, I want to say 2 3 weeks ago, to this like live podcast event and networking event, and for me it was so inspiring. Like even though it was about an hour and a half of the live podcast, just listening to them, but just being in the same room with them was so, how you said, like it just changed a lot of things, like energy, like you were more motivated. And after, and then talking to a few people, because I'm also an introvert, so I was like, I had to have my drink, and it was alcohol, so it like helped me like loosen up a bit. But I only drank a bit, and that helped because I was able to talk to like 3 4 people, and then had the courage to go talk to Sahid. He was one of the podcast guests, so I went to talk to him, and I was like, that was my first time having a conversation with a multi-millionaire. Like that's fucking crazy to me, and that was such inspiring that now I'm trying to be more consistent with myself. Like I think I told you in the beginning, like it's been a while since I've done a podcast interview, and it's because now I sound like 10 to, yeah, I would say like 5 to 10 emails a day to like people I want to interview. But yeah, I forgot why I went on this rant. But just the importance of mindset is so important. And I want to ask you, I guess we could move on. I want to talk about the first gen experience because I'm really curious about that. What are some specific like stories or experiences that you've had that you remember and that have really influenced the way you think, or the way you thought, really, and how have you transformed it to a positive one?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. As I mean, there was a lot of
I can imagine.
crap that I went through as first gen, especially when I was such a youngster. I will
Oh,
say this.
actually, can I ask for first gen? Did you come here when you were younger, or were you born here? And because there's like different definitions for first gen. At least
Yeah.
for me, first gen is when you come to the country and then you start living your life. But then I know for some people, first gen is you were born here. So for you,
Yeah.
what's your
So
definition?
yes, so me being first gen, I'm actually I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn, but I was raised most of my life in Connecticut,
Okay.
in a Mexican household
Okay.
family, and I consider myself as a first gen because I was the firstborn of everything. I mean, I was
Yeah.
firstborn in my family. I was a first gen college graduate. I was also a first gen working professional.
Yeah.
You can also say that I am also actually a first gen of entrepreneur. And
That's
so
awesome.
to me, I hold that with so much pride because as I mentioned in the very beginning, like we, yeah, as virgin has so much responsibility. I mean, it was really hard on my end just because my okay, so I have three siblings, so we're four girls. My my poor dad, he got no males in the house. It was just literally four girls. So you can just imagine the hormones in that household. But yeah, I mean, my parents, they were workaholics.
Mm.
And not just because they enjoy work, believe me, and it wasn't that. It was because they were trying to keep up with the finances, especially
Mm.
when you have literally a family of in total what's four, five, six, where you got to make sure there's food on the table, roof over your head, you have heat, you have light. And so in order to keep up with that as a maintenance, you have to make sure that you have enough to pay those fixed expenses. So while they were out there working very long hours. I had to literally babysit my sister. I
Mm.
remember oh my goodness. I remember when I was in high school, and I believe I was in a junior in high school where my sister was born. She was already a few months in, and
Mm.
I was basically put in charge to pick her up right after school at my aunt's house. Actually, no, backtrack that. I remember that I had to have community service hours. That was a requirement in my school. Like we
Okay.
had to have these community hours. So I remember that I was telling my mom, like, Mom, I have to like beat these hours. She's like, well, who's gonna pick up your sister? Like, I have to work. And I'm like, and
Mm.
mind you, she was a baby. And I'm like, Mom, I can pick her up after. Can you just talk to Thea and tell her like I'm gonna be
Just
slightly late?
yeah.
I have to set up these community hours or else I'm gonna fail. And when she heard that, she was like, oh, you're gonna fail. Like, yeah, I know I'm not gonna graduate if I
Mm.
don't hit my hours. She's like, okay, let me see what I can do. It worked out, but I remember literally right after school, I would jump on a bus to go to the after school program to do, or it was an after school program, but it was counted as community
Community
service.
hours.
And I was basically a tutor for
Mm.
those who were in K1 to fifth grade. And
Mm.
so I was basically teaching like the basics of literacy,
Mm-hmm.
math, I think science. So it was just like, okay, I gotta be there for an hour. I think it was an hour,
Mm.
maybe a little more than an hour, twice a week. And I would have to pick up my baby sister from my
Okay.
aunt's house and then also make sure that my other siblings made it home. And back then I didn't have a cell phone. A lot of people had a cell phone, but I didn't have a cell phone.
Oh wow.
It wasn't until like maybe late my junior year when my mom was growing concerned. She's not picking up
The
the
phone.
phone at the house. So she eventually was like, I'm gonna get you a cell phone, but you're only gonna use it for emergency. You're not gonna give it to your friends. You're not gonna like she was very conservative. So I remember there were times that I cried every time, especially when it was so cold, a winter storm. I remember there
Mm.
was a winter. I had to literally pick up my sister. Um, with a what do you call it? A baby
Stroller.
carriage, a stroller. Oh my goodness. Through just
Oh yeah.
a storm. And mind you guys, we're in the East Coast. really bad storms over here. And so
Yeah.
I would have to go through it, and they wouldn't even plow the sidewalks yet. So I had to push
Oh my
old
god.
mechanism to, I think it was like 5 blocks where I live from my aunt's house. Yeah, so I literally had to do that almost every day after school, even when snow was done and over, the sidewalks are still not clean. I remember I had to carry her on one arm, the stroller on the other
Oh
one.
my god.
And I remember just going home, just crying, like, why am I doing this? I feel like a teenage parent. And I think at that time, there was, teenage pregnancy was becoming a thing. Uh, so that to me was like, I never, never having kids. Like, this is too much. I want my freedom. And it sucks because I didn't get my freedom when I was young, because I had this responsibility making sure that my siblings were home. They did their homework. I was cooking meals for them. I had to make sure the house was clean too on top of that, because my mom would be pissed if that house was not clean every day. And I realized, like, wow, I knew, like, I can't continue to do this. Like, I know that for sure I don't want to have kids. That was kind of like my thing. Like, I don't want to have kids, because I was traumatized. I also knew too, like, I'm never gonna work those hours like my parents did. Like, because I want to be home. I want to feel content when I come home. I don't want to come home all groggy and like upset and cranky, just go straight to bed. Like, or at least in my case, my mom, she had to make sure she was cooking for my dad by the time he came back home. And it was just like, I can't do that. Like, I want to make sure that I come home at a reasonable time. And mind you, my parents were coming home really late, like 9, 10, 11 p.m. So it was all day for them. And I myself was like, when I get a job, it's not going to be like that. I will make sure and at that time, 9 to 5 was a popularized job that you had in mind. Like, that's what I want, a 9 to 5, making sure that I come home in the evening, I make myself dinner, I relax, have a good night's sleep, and do the whole thing again. And that's kind of like was my driving force. And in order to do so, in order to have a really good working job, especially if I wanted to be in an office setting, I have to go to college, because that was another thing. And my parents were always saying, like, we really would like you to go to college, because we want you to do well successfully. We want you to have a really good working professional job. Don't work at a deli or at a factory or at a restaurant. Like, that's not the life you want, because you just work those crazy hours. You're on your feet all day. You're moving packages. They're so heavy on you. You don't want to do that. It's not enough. Work at an office, mija. Like, you're gonna do so well. It's, if anything, I would love to see you all dolled up, in a nice, office dress, office outfit. I want you to know, like, well, we're investing, into your college, because they were paying for most of my college. Just make sure that we're doing this because we want you to have a really good future. We don't want you to be in the same cycle. And so that was a big, oh my God, that was a huge burden on me.
I was gonna ask that, yeah.
Because they have this expectation of you, and if you don't meet that, to them, you're a failure. And I don't want that, especially when you're first gen. Failure was out of the picture. Like, you got to make it work one way or another. You're gonna fucking make it work. Excuse my language, but and that's how I was grown up with that mindset. Like, I know it's hard, but figure it out. You know ways, okay? And especially when I was young, I was like, damn, you telling me that at like 8-year-old, I gotta figure out a game plan already? What I have to do? Like,
get me a business coach, please. A career coach.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, that's where, because of that experience that I went through as first gen, I knew that I had to go to college. I knew that I have to have a good paying job, so that I don't end up in the same cycle as my parents. And even though I'm not gonna lie, college was really rough. Like, really, really rough. Especially because I grew up in a school system that wasn't really doing well in terms of academics. They just kind of was just passing you just because they want to just pass you to meet their quota, I guess. I will say this. I was pretty smart, but not to a level where I was at a college level with other students. Like, I knew I was not there yet. But at least I was able to get through high school. I did end up being top 10% of my class. and that was a really good achievement of mine. And I thought, oh, I'm gonna do so well in college. No, that was a that went a whole 360. I was struggling really hard. I remember crying to my mom, like, I don't want to do this anymore. She's like, why not? She's like, why am I, what am I sending you there for? Just so you can sit and cry in bed? I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
that's what you're getting right now because I'm calling you, mom. Like, I don't want to be here. I remember, oh my goodness, numerous conversations on I don't want to be here anymore. And the reason why I didn't want to be in college is because I wasn't doing well academically. I was failing my classes. And knowing that I
Wow.
came from with this whole confidence, like I made top 10% of my high school, and my high school was pretty small, but at that time, that to me was a huge achievement. I
Yeah.
thought it was excellent. I thought it was like a very smart student. And then when I went to a Jesuit college or Jesuit university and meeting with other students, the level of education that they had was just so beyond what I had. And I was jealous. That alone just really lowered my confidence. And I was not doing well academically. And then socially, this school was predominantly white American, so it was not diverse whatsoever. I was one of the very handful of Latinos
Latino.
or like Latinx in that school. I mean, yeah, it took me a while to find my people within the university, but I was so done. It was so hard, but I remember my mom saying, like, no, we are not wasting money for you just to give up.
Wow.
Like, you can do this, okay? You can do this. I'm like, mom, I cannot do this. She's like, you can do it, okay? Just stop crying. You're gonna do well, okay? Because she's reminding me, she's like, do you want to end up like me? Do you want to end up working on your feet? Do you want to end up working at a factory packaging fruit all day? Is that what you want? Do you want to, if you end up finding someone, that person is going to expect you to be a housewife. And I think you told me that you don't want that, Sonia, right? I was like, no, I do not. Like, okay, well, you got to showcase yourself. You got to prove to them that you are going to do well independently. Okay. You're not going to rely on anyone else. You're not going to even rely on a crappy job that that's going to physically hurt you. Like, you can do this. Yeah. Just set your eyes on that future. Okay. You have 3 more years. Okay. You already knocked down 1 year. You're almost there. She's like, she said, she's like, I know you have 75% to go, but you're there. You already completed 25%. You got this. Ponte las pilas. That's what she always saying. I was like, all right. So the years went by. Again, I was always kicking and screaming every college year, but I made it. I made it. And I was able to eventually, take on internships, which then helped me develop some of the skills that I needed to be where I was in my corporate job. And if it wasn't for especially my mom, oh my goodness, even though she was so hard-headed, she was the motivator. And tells me, like, I know that you have a lot on your plate, and I do apologize. She has mentioned, like, I do apologize for putting such a huge burden on you, but I'm just doing this for your own good. You don't want to be like me or your dad. Like, you don't want that. We know what's best for you, and I know it's going to be hard, but I'm telling you this, you have all of these opportunities, especially because when I was in college, they gave me a really good scholarship, so we were only responsible to paying like almost like 5-10% of it, and it wasn't a lot, but I mean, to me, it was still a lot. I mean, my parents still, I think we had to pay like close to close to $5,000. To people, that's probably nothing, but to us, that was a lot for a yearly semester. So I knew, like 20. I can do this. We can get through this together. I knew that I didn't want to be in the same situation that they were in, and and so I was without, obviously without my mom's help, I wouldn't be here right now. Especially, I will say this, when I told her I was gonna quit my job after 8 years, she's like, "What?" I was like, "Mom, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing well on my business. And I can see growth. I honestly see growth already." Yeah. And she was so scared. She's like, "Are you telling me you're throwing all of that away? You going through school, you cry." She reminded me, I remember the phone calls you had to me, so that you were crying. And then you found this awesome job. Like, literally, you were you were being promoted. I ended up going elsewhere at another company. But even that was the end of it. I realized like when I wasn't happy where I was at, I didn't at this point I didn't care. I was just like, I wanna focus on me now. I'm tired of pleasing other people, especially I was tired of pleasing my boss. I was also tired of pleasing my parents too. I was like, when am I gonna start doing something that I want to do? I want to do something now for once, okay? Especially mind you guys, I'm 30. Like I was like, I am already old enough. I'm a grown ass woman. I can make my own decision. And so that that's what happened. I, the as a first gen, I was able to obviously learn how to navigate on my own. I was also able to learn how to pivot. But it led me to where I am now because now I was being very strategic and I'm really happy where I am at. I am very proud to say that when I shared my numbers to my mom, she was like, wow, you did prove me wrong. Okay. You are able to, I guess, do very well just alone in this business. I was like, yeah, mom. Like, I know I know I still am shortfall from what I was earning in terms of, my salary, my benefits, but I'm gonna get there, mom. I told her I'm gonna get there. And then eventually, when I'm hitting at a certain level, I can have you retire so that I can take care of you because I know that she to this day, my parents still continue to work. My dad works at a restaurant. My mom still works at a factory. And so I can see they're getting older and their legs are not the same, you guys. I feel so bad. My mom, she developed arthritis just because of the ongoing physical demand. And so I know that she's at her point where she can't lift things like she used to. My dad, he's been pretty tired out himself too. I mean, they're really strong people, but I know eventually I would like to retire them. My dad's telling me you don't have to retire. I can take care of myself. I'm like, okay, dad, you know how men are. They're like, we don't need nobody to help us financially. I'm a grown man. I can do this myself. I'm like, all right, well then I would love to retire my mom though. My mom is who I really want to help the most because I know her health is really, really it's creeping up on her already. And so I want to make sure that it doesn't get to a point where she's like disabled. Like I really want to make sure she's okay before it gets to that level.
Before it gets chronic.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what I want to do when I hit a certain figure in my business.
Which you will next year.
I will. Yeah.
I will. Yes.
Will that figure. And then I would love to present her this, hopefully this I guess you could say like this conversation, like mom, quit your damn job. I'm gonna take care of you now financially, just as you have taken care of me. Especially when I was little, it is now my responsibility to take care of you because I love you to death and I know what's best for you now. So let me be the one to take care of you now. So yeah, and that's something that again I want her to like. I would love for her to brag, especially to my family. Yeah, my first gen right there. She retired me, so I don't have to lift a box anymore. I don't have to lift a single machinery. Like my EHS is gonna take care of what I have going on. So and that's something I'm really excited for her to share because I would love for her to brag to my
That's
family.
your motivator, yeah.
Yeah. So and you know how Latinx families are. They're always trying to, brag who's the best child and whatnot. So I want to be one of those.
Hey, that's my goal in life for sure. I have two questions with regarding to like this conversation. One of them is like, what's one of the conversations you've had with your parents where you start like breaking those generational beliefs, right? So it could be anything. I mean, maybe like a moment that you have, a conversation that you had where you're like, oh, this is heating up pretty quick, but it ended up being like a very, very good conversation where it ended up also where you were able to understand their perspectives as understand each other's perspectives. Because I think that's also important.
Yeah. I will say this. I mean, one of them was telling my mom that I was going to quit my 9-to-5 job. and she was scared for me because she knows that
Yeah.
having a stable income was going to bring financial peace, especially, you know, seeing her firstborn. She's like, I don't want her to go through the pitfall of, you know, being in debt again, because she knows my financial journey. She knows that I had accumulated debt, and you know, she knows that I am now, you know, owning up to my mistakes, and I am now addressing that by knocking down the debt, making sure that I am now creating a savings fund for myself, for emergencies, for vacation if I have one. You know, I don't have one coming up yet, but that's there. Or if I have, like, sometimes, you know, there'll be a moments where there's a birthday party, I gotta make sure I have a little fun for that, so that way I'm able to afford presents. So I mean, that was, she was very, very, very concerned, because she thought that by leaving behind all those benefits that I was going to be back in a financial mess, and she was really concerned about that. And she was telling me, like, what happens if you you know, if you can't afford to pay, you know, I'm still, you know, living by myself. She's like, what if you can't afford to pay your rent anymore? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'll figure it out, mom. You always tell me I'll figure it out. And then she did say, like, you know, I really don't want you to move back to the house. Like, that's just, you know, what is your dad going to think? Like, let alone, I don't share like sensitive stuff or sensitive subject to my dad, just because I just don't. I just don't want to hear it from him either. I'd rather hear it from my mom. I'm so used to her just scorning at me, yelling at me. But she was like, I don't want to be the one to break the news to your dad that you moved back because you had a failed business. I'm like, you know how embarrassing that is. And I'm like, okay, mom. She's like, no, you don't understand. Like, you are leaving behind what we have built for you. We literally spent so much money on your education, and for you to just like throw that all away after quitting your 9 to 5, like, just so you can go on your so-called business, like, it's even doing very well. So she just like was not happy at first with that, because she was scared that I was going to be in a financial mess. And I don't blame her, because I understand that she was like thinking, oh my goodness, she's gonna end up like me. Now she's gonna end up working at a restaurant or at a factory and trying to make ends meet, just so that she's able to just pay her expenses. Like, oh my goodness, like, I can't, I don't, that's something that I don't want for her. I work really hard for her to be where she's at, and now she's throwing it all away. And I understand, like, I get it. You yourself, my parents, literally work to the very D to get the money to pay for my education. I understand that, and I'm not throwing that away. It's just that I'm just not happy where I'm at in my corporate job. Their mission, their goals that they had, does just no longer align with me. I'm a grown ass person. Like, I will figure it out. I already have a plan. Like, it's not like I just literally said, oh, okay, I quit without us having a backup plan. Like, I'm pretty smart. So I told her, like, mom, don't worry, I have an emergency fund. I'm gonna make sure that, you know, I'm being very conservative with my spending. I'll make sure that I'll continue to attract the clients that I need in order to have some substantial income. And so I did not tell her that I was struggling in the very beginning, just because, again, I knew I was gonna have that conversation where she's gonna tell me, I told you so. And I don't want her to tell me that. So I remember she was always checking in too. After I quit my job, she was checking in like almost every other day just to see how I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm good, mom. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. Okay, well, if you want, I made some food for you to over for lunch or dinner, mostly dinner. You know, that's okay. I said that, like, she was already like helping me with like some of the costs. I was like, no, mom, like, I can cook my own meal. She's like, no, like, I know you probably are tired of your ramen or your rice. And I'm like, okay, mom. Okay, I'm not the greatest cook, guys, but I try my best. So, but my mom be making some banging food. She makes pozole, tamales, you name it. Like,
I'm about to head out there.
No, coming through. We're not too far from
Yeah, for sure. I'll go right now. I'll be there in a minute.
To the carne asada, Andrea.
Yay.
But yeah, no, that was probably one of like oh my goodness, like it was a very, very intense conversation. She was bright red when I told her, but I reassured her that I was gonna be fine. Oh, best believe a year later, I told her, mom, this is where I'm doing. I'm a business. I started the second business too. I'm in demand. She knows that, like, Every time she's, we are on the phone, she's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "I'm busy, mom. I'm trying to wrap up this tax return." Or, "Oh, mom, I'm walking the dog because I have a pet sitting business,
Yeah.
my supplemental income. I'm walking the dog." She's like, "I feel like you're doing that every day." I'm like, "Yeah, mom, I'm really busy. It's all good. It's all good." She's like, "Okay, just give me a call back." I keep forgetting. God, I'm sorry, mom. I know I keep forgetting to return your calls back or your text messages, but I've been busy. But I think her just seeing that just now gave her some reassurance. Like, okay, she
Yeah.
actually did do it. She's actually doing pretty well. And we'll see. Hope in next year, 6 figures is my goal right there, and hopefully the next thing
Yes.
would be retiring her. But yeah, I mean, that was that was pretty much what happened. I would say this for those who are kind of scared to tell your parents too, especially if you're first and yourself. If you started a business and you're ready to go full on, be prepared to have a very intense conversation. Have a plan, because if you don't give them a plan, they're gonna bug out for sure. I will say that. And then brag about your wins to them. So that way you give them the reassurance that you're going to be in a very good place, not just, in terms of your business, but also financially as well. Because that's a concern to many folks, is like, are they able to be okay on their own? Are they going to keep a roof over their head? Or am I expecting them to come back and I got to make a room and their bed for them? So, but yeah, I definitely, make sure that you have a game plan ready, because I'm telling you, with that, it's going to help. It's going to be a cushion for you that you didn't expect that you need, because
For sure.
everything, shit happens, and you got to be prepared for the unexpected. So just be very strategic with that.
Yeah, and I think it's cool how your mom, like, even though like sometimes we see it as like you could say like we don't want to hear it anymore, like in the sense of like, oh, are you sure you're doing okay? But it's pretty cool that she was actually like able, like, put in that effort of like saying, are you okay, and just checking on you, knowing like you've struggled before. So I think that was pretty cool. And I think for me, something more recent is like understanding their perspective. Like, they themselves, our parents, don't have never had experience of starting their own business. Oh, for most of us, they haven't had the experience of starting their own business. So it's like, of course they're gonna be scared for us. Like, they've never had these. Like, they've been so accustomed to live a certain life, and a life that's very rutinaria, like very routine, something routine, very routine, right? So I think for me, that me understanding that and comprehending that was very, very important. I know we're almost at our time. I don't know if you have time or if we have a meeting afterwards. So I have a few more questions for you.
Yeah, go
Are you
right
good?
ahead.
Yeah. All right. I just want to get really quick into the finance section where maybe we could talk like, what was your first finance memory, financial memory when you were a kid, and how has that influenced you? And then I guess the same question as last time, like, how have you transformed it to a positive one?
Okay, in terms of my finance, that's a really good one. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. Actually, I remember. Oh my goodness. So I had a piggy bank, and
Okay.
my parents would sometimes give me money for doing chores, because obviously
Mm.
that was the motivator. Like, okay, I gotta make sure this house is clean, because
Mm-hmm.
they pay me not a lot, but
Okay.
to me, $5 was $5. That to me was
Mm.
500 in my eyes. And so I remember just putting in my cash in a piggy bank. And then my mom, she had guestovers, and they were kids. We were probably like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old.
Okay.
And she had yeah, you guys, I was getting paid at that. I was getting paid at that age, you guys, for cleaning. But yeah, she had guestovers, and they had kids, and I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings or whatever. And it wasn't until the next day my mom asked me, "Sonia, where's the piggy bank?" I'm like, "Oh, it should be over there, in the corner of the drawer." She's like, "I don't see it. Did you move it?" And I'm like, "No, it should be right there." So I remember just
Mm.
like trying to figure out, like, wait, where did I put the piggy bank? And I didn't think of this until later on, but I was wondering why she was like wondering where my piggy bank was. And then she ended up telling me that's because I sometimes would steal some money out of it to go to the grocery store. But she would like put it back. It was like she was borrowing it.
Okay. Okay.
So because sometimes I would count. My
Like,
cat
where's my
just
$20?
yeah. So I didn't know she told me. But at that time she was like, "Where's the piggy bank?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I was reading it in the drawer. It was right there in the corner." Um, we couldn't find the damn piggy. Like
Oh
it
my
took
god.
like she got so mad. She got so pissed. And I remember it was like probably over like $300.
Oh
Like
shit. That's a lot.
so she thinks that it was one of the kids, the guests that, they had kids over. They were in my room. We were playing around. She was like, those kids must have took it. She's like, why didn't you pay attention? You should have been keeping an eye. Or why did you leave it out there in the open? I'm like, Mom,
Yeah.
I'm a young child. I don't think about people stealing my money. So she got so irated because she was basically said this was your responsibility. How can you just let that happen? Like I can't trust you no more with this.
Oh
I'm like,
wow.
so I was just like, I remember crying because I was just like, oh my God, I messed up. I effed up. I didn't know I was a bank
Yeah.
to keep in this money. So she had called up she basically called everyone who had their kids over and asked them if they have a so-called, she was very specific with the piggy bank. It was
Mm-hmm.
pink, but it had like little jewels. Because I remember I was like bedazzling when I was little, because I was going crazy with that. And they all denied it, but she's like, there's no way that someone would just abruptly just take a piggy bank of over $300. And so because $300 at that time was a lot, she was telling me like, Sonia, like, that's when she ended up confessing me, like, I would go in and use it so we can get some grocery, but I would put it back so you wouldn't even notice.
Mm.
And she's like, we don't have, and she was telling me like, Sonia, I don't have no money to get milk or cereal. You guys want milk and cereal, right? Or eggs. And I was just like, yeah. She's like, because of you, we can't get that.
Oh
And
sheesh.
I was just like, she's like, we're gonna starve. We're gonna starve. Like I was like, and that to me scared the crap out of me.
Holy crap, yeah.
Because when she said, because we have no money, because of that, we can't afford food, we're gonna starve. That really, really scared the crap out of me. And so I remember telling her, Mom, I promise you, I will make sure I pay you back. I don't know how, but I will make sure I will pay you back. I remember going to next day in school. I had a Dell desktop. I think it's probably way before your time, Andrea, but for those who know, typically in school, it was either a Gateway or a Dell desktop computer. I remember going on, I think it was Yahoo at that time.
What's Yahoo?
Yahoo.
No, I'm kidding.
What's Yahoo now? No. Before it was Yahoo. So I literally went on that search engine and saying how to make $300.
Oh
And I
wow.
remember reading articles of saying like you can start a lemonade stand, you can cut grass, you can sell candy. I'm like, well, okay, how am I supposed to do all of that? It requires me to put more money.
Investments.
I need to buy lemonade. I need to buy I gotta buy stand. Like I gotta buy what? I gotta buy clippers to long people's. I was just like, with candy, I need to buy candy in order to sell candy. It's just like so. I was just like, oh my, that really hurt me because I was really trying my very very best to make that money's back because I was just like the thought of we're gonna starve to death really scared me. And I remember crying to my dad when he came home early. I think it was 2 days later. He was telling, I told him what I was feeling because he saw me crying. He saw me and said, what happened? And I'm like, well, Mom said that because I lost the $300, like we're gonna starve because we got no food. And I did notice the fridge was very empty. She's like, Mom can't get cereal for us. I can't even make egg sandwiches for my sisters. Like he's like, Sonia, it's okay. Like we're gonna get paid this Friday. It's fine. He's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, we don't. It was stupid. He did say it was stupid of you to leave the piggy bank out there in the open when there's guests because people steal money. And you were responsible, but it's okay. We're gonna get paid this Friday. If you can just hang on just a little longer. We have some fruit. I know you guys don't want to eat fruit. I know you guys don't want to drink water only. Like, but that's kind of what we have. We have queso. We can try to eat some like beans. We got beans. That's try to hang on for the next few days. We're gonna get paid this Friday. And we're gonna be okay. Okay, we're gonna get you some food for you guys, so that way you guys are happy. Don't worry about the 300. You're gonna make it up. Okay, you're gonna do extra chores. Okay, you're gonna help me clean my car too. So to make it up, and we're be even. I'm like, okay, okay. But I realized, like, wow, like, even though, and at that time that made me feel better, but I realized, like, wow, my parents really were living paycheck to paycheck, and I knew that I couldn't let that happen. So I remember when I was getting paid again, I was like, all right, this time we're not putting in no piggy bank. I was considering getting another one, you guys.
So you never found the piggy bank? It never came back.
We never know
Oh
how.
shit.
I have to bring this up to my mom. Maybe something happened and I just never bothered to ask again. But now that you like brought that memory to me, I'm gonna ask her, like, mom, what happened to my did you ever figure out what happened or what your assumptions are? Because I kind of want to know. But yeah, anyways,
she like tells you I found it in my laundry and just like she never told you.
No, I don't think they ever. I don't think they ever found it. But I think my
That's
mom
crazy.
knows who did
Who?
it.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I think now that I think about it, I remember these triplets.
Always
Like,
the triplets.
I remember they were in my room, and one of them did compliment about my piggy bank. They were slightly older than I was too, so one of them has sticky fingers.
If you're watching this, return that piggy bank.
Yeah, right. 21 years later, what? 21, maybe, yeah, 21 years later or something. But anyways, yeah. So that's kind of what happened. I realized, like, I had to be very careful with my money, especially when I was getting the money again for doing the chores. I remember putting it under my bed.
Oh
um,
wow.
in an envelope, and then that envelope got really big, so I ended up getting another envelope, and
Yeah.
it made me very cautious to like protect your money.
Yeah.
Eventually I realized, like, that was a dumb idea to leave your money out there, because anything can happen too. Like, you can have a burglar come in, stealing all your stuff, and they find this cash too on top of that. Like, it's wise that you put it into a bank account. And at that time I didn't think about bank accounts because my parents were so against it. They were like, no, they're gonna steal your money, always make sure you put it in a safe area. But then I realized, like, no, it's okay to put your money in a bank account. And if anything, I think it's a lot more convenient because now you can use a debit card.
How did you make that realization? Like, for you it seems like, oh yeah, it's fine, but like having that belief, like, oh, banks aren't good, then how were you able to, was it just like a thought, or yeah?
It was because of my friends in my circle. They had their own, which surprisingly, right? And this was in college. Guys, I didn't have my first bank account until I was in college. My first year in college, as a freshman. Everyone was telling me, because I had this cash, you guys. I brought that envelope of cash with me. And because I was like, this is what I'm gonna rely on. But I realized everyone was like, you don't have a bank account or a debit card? I was like, what's that? Like, oh, well, if you have cash, you can put that in a bank account. You just had to create one. It's free. You just deposit your money and you should be all good. You just use your debit card.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait, but my mom told me that banks are bad. They were like, what? No, like, in fact, it saves you the trouble of carrying all that cash with you. Where people stealing it. I was like, oh yeah, I know. I already have my piggy bank. So yeah, I mean, it took a few years to for me to like realize, like, well, up to when I went in college, like, it's okay to put it in a financial institution. And I realized later that there's protection. So God forbid something happens, like, the banks will be responsible to pay you back if that, for whatever reason, disappears. They will take care of it no matter what. And so I ended up telling my mom about it. Like, Mom, so I found out that the banks are not as bad as you thought. She's like, yeah, I know. I was like, what? I was like, wait, you have a bank account? She's like, yeah. I was like, for a few years now. I was like, why didn't you tell me that banks are bad? She's like, because they're bad. And you know why? Because they were charging her interest because she wasn't keeping a minimum. That's why she wasn't putting I found that out later. She's like, yeah, because they're always charging you if you don't have a certain amount sitting in your bank account. And I was like, oh, is that why you're saying this? And then you're out here telling me that don't do it. And then I find out, like, I told her eventually, like, Mom, there's banks that don't charge you a fee at all. Like, she's like, really? I was like, yeah. But I ended up finding out the reason why I got no penalties on it, because I was a student. Because I opened up a student. But they were able to work it out with her, because she was I don't know what she did, but they were able to work it out with her where they were able to waive off her maintenance fee. That's what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh, well, now now she's all good now. She to this day now she still uses, if anything, she uses her debit card a lot more now than putting that. But yeah, it was just the thought of, they're giving you this mindset of like, oh no, these institutions are bad because they're going to steal your money. But that was because they were experiencing themselves, like they weren't, obviously they lack financial literacy, so they were just trying to use it to pay fixed expenses, but they weren't really being very thoughtful or keeping track of their finances. And that was because they weren't earning a lot more, and I know things obviously cost of living increased, so it was really hard for them to keep up. And I know they had unexpected expenses, just like the car vehicle. My goodness, cars are so, the car maintenance is it's a lot of money,
Expensive, sure.
yeah. And so I know that was kind of where I was able to kind of shift my mindset on how bank institutions are now. Especially now more than ever, there's so many, especially online, like there's no maintenance fee.
And a high yield savings account is important.
Yeah. And oh my goodness, I mean, so happy for especially my mom. Oh my goodness, kudos to her. Like she had come a long way, guys. I'm telling you, from her putting money under her own bed, from slowly transitioning to a bank, and then putting a little bit more where, she was able to show she had a good amount in balance, because eventually she had a goal in mind, and that was to purchase her own home. And so she did. You guys, my mom's finally a homeowner. So happy for her. I mean, obviously with the help of my sister, but oh my goodness, that was her goal. Like, I want to own a home, and in order to do so, I gotta be smart with my money. She did put her savings into a high yield savings account, and I didn't know. She just did it without me. I think one of the bankers told her like, "Hey, up a high yield and just put it there if you're planning on purchasing a home down the line." And so that's what she did. And I was like, oh my goodness. And like, she's finally gaining trust now. Just because I know, and I'm pretty sure she probably got told by many other people too, about institutions. I know that there was, I believe back in 2008, that's where the economy collapsed here in the United States, the market crashed. And so obviously that impacted the banks, and the banks lost all that money, and then they had to find ways to recoup that back to their customers. And so yes, but for her to just able to shift that mindset and now finally to be more I guess you can say financially savvy. I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy. She has come a long way with that. And that also helps me too, because it just shows like, okay, there are many people just like her, especially in her generation, who are probably still stuck in that old mindset, but if we start slowly shifting the mindset on their end, like, hey, like, it's okay. Like, you got people who are literally around your generation who are finally have these big financial ambition goals, such as like buying a home. Like, you can do the same thing. You just gotta be very smart with your money, and you'll be good. Obviously, make sure you work with somebody you can trust too. There's so many resources online as well, like YouTube, social media. I mean, I would take social media with a grain of salt, but
we'll definitely do further research for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, that's how I was able to myself personally be able to just like let go of those misconceptions that I had when I was with obviously with my family. And I mean, heck, I myself have my own high yield savings account. I have a brokerage account now. I have a retirement account. Like, oh my goodness, like, it's okay to put your money in these institutions, because just know that it's backed up. It's federally insured, or
FDIC.
Yeah, that's insured. So in case something happens, your money's not.
Money.
Okay, your money's.
I have a question now that you mentioned like Roth IRAs and brokerages. Because this my brother mentioned a while back. He was like, I don't think it's a good idea to invest, at least because maybe it's like maxing out your Roth IRA, all of that. But he was saying how people, like especially people who have businesses, they should invest that money instead onto their business instead of putting all that money into your Roth IRA and maxing it out. What's your opinion on that, since you have yours? Like, how do you max it out every year, or is it you invest so that, like, do you have your own investment money like saved up so you can invest in your business? Like, how for you, like, what's your comments on that?
So usually when it comes to your retirement, it really depends on your tax situation that you have going on. So for
Okay.
example, if you are someone who is doing very well in the business and you're paying yourself from the business, right? And you have no debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
You, if anything, your goal is long term, like to take a distribution from a retirement account. You want to think of two things. Do you want to pay the taxes later on, or do you want to pay the taxes right now? And what I mean by that is that there are different retirement account
Yeah.
options. There's the post, or there's the pre and the post account. So pre is pre-tax accounts, is meaning like before your taxes, and it's deductible on your tax return. And that is because you're trying to get a tax break right now, but you know that you're going to eventually have to pay the taxes on the contribution to the pre-tax traditional IRA or 401k or a
Mm-hmm.
SEP IRA, a simple IRA account. Just know that when you're contributing to those in those accounts, you are getting a tax break on your tax return. You
Yes.
can max out up to $6,000 for an IRA account. 401s are slightly more, but if you know that that's going to help you reduce your tax liability by you contributing,
Mm-hmm.
right now you want that tax break, then go with that route. However, if you don't want to worry about a damn thing about taxes later on, you rather just pay taxes now, so you don't have to worry about it
Yeah.
when you retire. Then consider the post tax account route, which is usually the Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, and that means is that after your taxes, right? After you pay all your taxes, you
Yeah.
have that left over, then you can use that to that account, knowing that you already pay the taxes. You're going to take it out in about 10, 20 years tax free.
Yeah.
And this is only for those who don't have any debt. I usually recommend, like, if you have debt, try to pay off your debt first. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have all this left over and you're still good, like, then consider long term if you want to retire, especially if you're already 30, you want to retire in the next 30 years and you have nothing, you just literally you're in a good financial place,
Yeah.
go ahead and use that. But just know that you won't get a tax break, but you will be tax free when you do decide to take that money out. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
case by case
Yeah.
situation for taxpayer. So this is where I go more in depth into analyzing their tax situation, meaning I'm looking at all streams of income, and then I discuss further by basically asking you where you are financially from the personal side. Do you
Okay.
have any obviously we want to make sure that you're okay paying off your fixed expense, but do you have that? And if so,
Mm-hmm.
let's think about our options. Like, should we pay off the debt? If meaning if your debt is a certain amount of percentage, I usually would tell you, like, maybe you should probably use what you're paying yourself to pay off that debt versus putting it towards a retirement account, just
Mm-hmm.
because that debt, I mean, credit card alone is like up to 32% right now. That's a lot. That's more than federal
Yeah.
income tax rate. So this is
Mm-hmm.
why I tell people, like, I think you're better off paying off your credit card debt, because in the long run, you're knocking out that debt, you're reducing your interest
For
payment.
sure.
But once we get that down, or at least get that stable, then we can consider slowly adding into the pre-tax account so that you start building up some savings for your future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, I definitely need to, like, review people's situation just
Yeah.
to make that determination. And this is where tax planning plays a huge factor, just because it gives me a better picture of your situation, and then it gives me the ability to create a forecast so that we are
Mm-hmm.
able to just implement some strategies, making sure before we even pay the tax man, is there any way we can shift some income, like, to
Okay.
you and your family? Because I'm all about too building family wealth within.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that many business owners, especially when they're paying, they're relying on their business income to really, really hone in on, just because literally the wealthy Americans are doing that. They're literally finding every avenues that they can to keep that money within the family before they
For
pay the
sure.
tax man. And they're doing it, in fact,
Yes.
legally. Most of them are doing it legally, and that's because they have a really good strategist on
Oh,
their
I
team.
thought you said illegally. I'm like, what?
Oh no, 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 legally. They
Legally,
are
legally.
legally doing it right. So,
Yeah.
okay, if
Yeah,
you're
like
doing,
I heard the one where you pay your child like I think you could pay like $12,000 and then that's deductible. So yeah, it's
yep,
like work
it's
smart, not
within the
hard.
income. Yep, and other areas, but it's staying within the family. This is why I tell people, when I'm going through these options, obviously making sure, like, okay, let's just make sure we pay you first before we pay the next family
Mm.
member. And this is where I say, okay, let's go see if retirement contribution work. Then the next goal is,
Mm.
okay, we still have some left over. How do you feel about hiring your brother, your sister, your daughter, your son? Like, how do you
Mm.
feel comfortable hiring them to help you with the business? And if so, let's give them this amount, a certain amount,
Yeah.
so that way you are writing it off on your taxes, right? But you're also keeping the money within the family. And then
Yeah.
once we get that sorted, then we calculate what we have to pay the tax man after that.
Okay.
So it's just kind of those things. And that's a lot of people need to know. Like, before you even make those quarterly payments or make that
Yeah.
tax when you file next year, or yeah, make sure you pay through in your family first. Don't give your
Mm-hmm.
money to the government because in my opinion, that they don't use our tax dollars wisely. So it's
Nope.
just best to just have you take care of that and making sure that you use that money to build generational wealth because it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
come a long way. I'm
For
telling you that.
sure. And that's the importance of becoming financially what is it, financially literate, like understanding your finances, all of that. Limiting beliefs, which also go like mindset stuff, which is something we weren't able to talk much about, but definitely that. And I do have one last question with taxes, and then we could start wrapping it up. But what would you recommend people who are just starting on their business and want to understand taxes a bit more, and they want to go to a tax pro, right? They want to understand like start strategy, planning, all of that. But I also know there's like depending on like where there's some people who don't know what's best for you or they just do their job because of money. Like they're getting paid and that's it, right? They're not like so not everybody's like Sonia where like they're looking at your future and like trying to understand and seeing the benefits of it of like how can you take advantage or of not take advantage pretty much like have a good strategy for you, right? And so what should people like start like the basics of taxes, like what should they be looking at? Obviously like going to your social media and like looking at your videos, but like if they want to go deeper into like longer format videos or any other resources, like what should they be learning so that they could be informed when they're trying to hire someone to do their taxes?
Yes. So when you're out there researching and finding the tax pro that you think would be best for you, one of the things that you should look out is to make sure that they have their credentials up to date, meaning that for tax pros, anyone can become a tax pro with a P10. That's what it's called. It's basically your professional identification number.
Okay.
And you need that in order to file um, a person's tax return and e-file it as well. However, anyone can get that. But what I recommend is you look them up on either Google or on the IRS website. Those
Mm-hmm.
two things are going to let you know if that person is credible, meaning they have a not only just a social media present on, like, let's say Instagram or TikTok, but they have a LinkedIn page because LinkedIn shows um their
Mm-hmm.
professional history
Yep.
of where they first started. Like, when you look at their prior work experience, you want to see, like, okay, are they someone who has experience working with tax returns or are comfortable working with large data or numbers? That will give you an idea, like, okay, this person is very analytical. This person
Mm-hmm.
has just very detail oriented based on their profile. And when you're also looking on the IRS website, literally there is a directory. Put their name and the city that they reside in or the zip code, and it will show whether or not they are accredited by the
Okay.
IRS. I am one of those people who is accredited by the IRS, meaning that I have went through their certificate program. I continue to also educate myself with the latest tax laws changes because I, by law, have to make sure that I'm in compliance with them. So that way, they know that there's someone that they can trust. And so those are the one of things I want to call out. It's making sure that you do the research, making sure that they're at least they have a professional page, even a website too. You can get an idea and a sense of who they are, and also looking back at their prior work history, and then if they're also on the website by the IRS and making sure that they are accredited, that is also great. Another thing too, when you do go and have that consultation call or a consultation in-person meeting or whatever, make sure you're asking some really detailed questions, just because you want to kind of see how quick they are on their toes. Because when they are quick on their toes, that means that they know their stuff. And they have been doing this for quite some time. And if they are someone who are just, as I call them, data entry folks, they literally are just plugging in numbers. They don't really ask you about, your work history. They don't ask you about a copy of your prior tax returns. They don't tell you what errors they have found, or if they don't give you any recommendations that you can implement for the current year. There's just someone who is literally plugging in numbers and telling you bottom total, this is what you're getting, or this is what you owe, run. Because they are someone who are just collecting their money because they're just putting in the information and then having you sign the dotted line. Me, how I work with my clients is when I'm having that consultation call, I let them pick my brain because I want them to see how knowledgeable I am and what I can help them and bring to the table to put them in a really good place, especially because you want to work with a professional who's going to have your back, who is helping you implement the strategy that fits for your situation. They're not someone who is just trying to give you the biggest refund, because I will tell you this, that I will not do. I will not be someone who is trying to give you a big fat tax refund, because that's not how it works, okay? So, but I could go on a tangent about tax refunds, but long story short, I try to make sure that your numbers tell a story. I come from a background with data analytics. So if your numbers show something that's way off, that's going to ding the IRS. And that is going to lead to a potential audit or review, where they're going to now ask for backup data to tie back to those numbers that you have or that was entered on the tax return. You do not have the backup data, or if the numbers do not tell a story, best believe they're going to go ahead and make those adjustments on your return. And that's going to likely result you in owing them money back. And we got to make sure that it doesn't get to that point. It's got to be done right the first time. I'm not perfect either, but I do my very best of my ability to tell folks why I had put their return a certain way, because I tell them, like, I know what they're looking out for, and I want to make sure that it looks good on paper too. The last thing I need is you calling me up and saying, I got a nasty, passive aggressive letter from the IRS. What the hell did you do? Like, okay, first of all, calm down. Send me that notice. Let me review it, because sometimes that's a scare tactic on their end. And I usually tell people, oh, they just want this and that. Oh, well, why do they have to say it like that? And I tell them, like, that's just who they are. Like, they're assholes, okay? But don't worry. I always tell people this is fixable. And you got to make sure that the professional, again, is not only knowledgeable, is quick on their toes, already has a goal for you for the future. Because sometimes these professions, all they think about is right now. Like, no, we got to think long term. We got to make sure, what do you have in mind? I always ask people, especially for business owners, do you plan on getting funding for the future? Do you plan on getting a property in the future? If so, we got to make sure we're showing some net profit right now on your business, because I would tell you this, lenders are going to ask between 3 to 5 years of your tax return. And if you are not showing any business net income or net profit, and if you're showing losses because you went too crazy on your tax return, they're going to tell you, heck no, we're not giving you no money, because you're going to default, because you are not making money in your business anyways. So
Okay.
you want to make sure we are doing it from the very, very beginning. And if that professional who you are asking all these questions doesn't ask you any long-term plan, go with someone else. I am licensed in most states. There are a few states that I'm not licensed. One of them is like Oregon, Georgia, there, it was Maryland, and there's like two others that I can't think of my top of my head. But for the most part, I am licensed in most states, and I make sure that when I'm having these consultation call, we're talking about your prior year tax situation, your current year tax situation, and try to forecast what your situation will be for the next few years. So that way, it all makes sense because we want to make sure there's like some trend going on, and it just looks more credible for you too in case you do get audited or reviewed, because now we have our ducks in a row. We have the backup data, we have the information, our numbers tell stories, so we can go ahead and tell them like, this is why we had it this way, because this is what was going on. And most of the time they'll be like, okay, that makes sense. So yeah. I
No,
know it's
thank
a
you.
lot.
No, but that's super informative, and there's like there's like questions that you can ask in the consultation call. So yeah, that's awesome. And then another question popped up was for those who want to be tax pros. You mentioned how you had your data analyst background, and that really helped you out a lot. But maybe those who want to become a tax pro, like maybe they don't have that experience, but or what would you add, or what would you tell them, skill wise that they should learn so that they could be the best like tax pro out there and like actually help the people that are trying to help in a beneficial way.
I will say this, that for tax professionals, it's not just an analytical job. You have to be
Okay.
very open-minded. You have to be okay with change. Because I will tell you this, there's a lot of stuff that's happening within the tax system. The tax code changes on a yearly basis because you have people on Congress who are remodifying the tax law over and over again, and they're just handing it off to the IRS, who then basically execute those actions, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be prepared for the change. So if you are someone who's okay with change, then this role is for you. And of course, in order for one to be okay with change, you have to be very open-minded.
Yeah.
Because if you are someone who is very firm with sticking to a particular method,
Or
you're not
system.
gonna survive at all.
Oh
Especially
wow.
because not just the tax system changing, but people situations changes too. And you gotta be prepared because shit happens. People get married, people have kids, people have multiple businesses. We got people who literally went and did a splurgy moment of buying a property. Like, you gotta be prepared for
Okay.
that. And by you doing that, you gotta go in open-minded.
Okay, yeah,
So
that makes sense. Yeah. All right. I know we have to wrap up, so I'll ask my last two questions. So the first one is, um, what's from this? It's been now 3 years, right, with your business?
yeah, well, I'm about to hit 4 years
Four
soon.
years.
I think next
In
month will be 4 years.
Oh wow, awesome, awesome. So in these almost 4 years, what have been those accomplishments in your business? Maybe you could say three, four, however much you want, really, and that you've thought like I can't believe this happened, and if I wouldn't had started this business, like this never would have happened.
One of my three accomplishments, right?
Yeah, accomplishment, achievements, big or
So,
small, it doesn't matter.
so I will say this. My biggest one is hitting my revenue goal this year. So I had a mine of 60K, and that will happen in a few weeks. So I'm really happy
Hey.
about that. Another goal, oh my goodness, I didn't think this would happen, but to be actually asked, from many podcasters, from many financial creators to be a guest speaker on their show, on their webinar series. I
Okay.
never in a million would picture myself doing this right now.
Okay.
It is incredible. I will say this. I am very camera shy, but with Zoom, I'm totally all in. And you probably can sense already, like, oh, he's camera shy. She's great. But I will say this, with public speaking though, I gotta really, really work on that just because I do get really shy, especially if
Yeah.
there's like a camera right in front of me. Like now it's fine, but in different
Different
situations,
setting.
that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh wait, I just freeze. But yeah, I think for the most part, I'm really happy to be asked because most of them, believe it or not, I call me an expert in taxation,
Hey.
especially because I you don't see a lot of Latinos or Latinx.
Yeah.
So to just be able to be um a very different and unique tax pro, just because not only am I just a woman, but I'm also a Latinx professional. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a great badge to hold just because you don't see that, and that's like great. I'm like one of the very few people I guess who is starting that trend, and hopefully we get
Mm-hmm.
more in the circle, especially those who really want to go beyond the next level of just data entry. They want to learn
Mm-hmm.
about how to specialize in tax planning, in a CFO service, in executive level work. Like those are the people that you really want to
Yeah.
work with because they know that they are so ready to take you to the next level, and they want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you are right there reaching goal as well. So that's where I'm really happy about just to be
Yeah.
there, to be classified as one of like the experts, and now to be able to work with some high level clients as well. I guess another one is
It could be personal too, mindset, anything.
hmm, last one. I guess I'm really happy that I don't have to go back to a 9 to 5 job.
Hey, yes.
I'm just so damn happy because I was scared that I thought I was gonna go back. And fast forward a year later, it's like, oh, I am so loving being 100% entrepreneur, despite all the challenges that I have to go through. I am just so happy that I don't have to have anyone tell me what to do. I'm my own boss, and I can do and dictate what I want from my business. So yeah, I mean
For
that's probably
sure.
one of the accomplishments. I mean, I have a lot of achievements. I mean, not achievement, but I also have like many awards that I'm really happy to be given.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother. I can go on and on with that one. But I mean, those
Another episode, part two.
I'm really, really happy to even be here today to speak with you and share
Oh.
my story, and obviously some of my snippets of my of my tax knowledges and tax recommendations that I usually typically give out to my clients, just because
Yeah.
it's all about building wealth, especially for the Latinx
Yes.
community. Like, I mean, it's our time. It's our time to shine.
Yes. Yes,
So
for
we gotta
sure.
keep going. We gotta prove to others we can do this too.
And I think what you just mentioned kind of goes with the second question of like, for those who want to start a business or want to start a hobby or just learn something new, but for some reason, well, I mean, we know the reasons, but for some reason they are scared. They're just like, no me lo merezco. I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough. Or what if this? What if that? What advice or what specific tip or strategy would you like give them in order to start that business, that hobby, whatever that they want to start that project?
Mm. I would say let go of those doubts, okay? Based on that fear. Because when you face on that fear, you are literally proving to life that you are ready for change.
Yeah.
And when you start accepting and embracing that change, that door opens up and you're going to see so many opportunities that are calling your name out. I'm telling you this. I'm experiencing that myself right now. And if it wasn't for me literally if I didn't let go of doubt, I would not be here right now. I would be literally miserable in my 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
I took initiative, and so you too. Take that step to go ahead and just do what you want to do. Do what makes you happy. Start that business. Start selling that product. Start selling that service. Start showcasing yourself as that lead expert in that industry. Because when you are going head on, people are going to take notice of you, and they're going to reach out to you and present you with all of these opportunities that they feel like you are a good fit for. And you're going to be, no doubt, you're going to take it, and you're going to be so thankful that you did so, because you took that very first step by going head on and taking that action that you need. So
Hey, no, that was awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Sonia. I really enjoyed this conversation. I learned a bit about taxes, so thank you for that. And for those who wanna either go hire you like right now, or you wanna check out your content, like where can they go find you?
Oh yeah. So I am mostly on Instagram at Castellan Tax Services. And I also am on TikTok as well. I just am trying to work out
Oh,
the
okay.
kinks there. But you can always shoot me a DM though on Instagram if you have any tax questions, or if you want to just hop on a consultation call with me. I'm more than happy to provide you my booking calendar to you, so
Okay.
that way we can
Yes.
get started and start discussing your tax situation. And then you can also find me on my website too at castellantaxservices.com. I basically, you'll have a list of services that I provide as well as my bio. And I do have a pricing structure there too. So if you are curious to know, I'm very transparent with what I provide in my pricing, because I feel like people should be I feel like that should be fully disclosed, just so that people can just start thinking like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to work with this person, but I want to make
Start
sure that I
start
have a
saving
budget.
that money.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you can also find me on LinkedIn as well. I am planning on boosting up my presence there too. So if you want a professional connection, I am there as well. So feel free to send me a request, and I would be more than happy to connect with you all there.
Awesome, awesome. And I also we didn't mention this, but you also have a podcast, Ladies Who Finance. So I'm sad that we weren't able to talk about it, but definitely go check that out too. There's a lot of episodes now, so yeah, definitely go listen to it after this episode. Or I mean, you already finished it, so definitely go after like right now to listen. And yeah, I think we got the links, we got the podcast. Thank you, Sonia, so much again for being here. I know we passed the time limit, but I'm thankful that you stayed. So, and thank you for all the knowledge that you shared, and your story is your first gen experience. I think that was really important, at least for me. That was one of my big takeaways, because I don't hear a lot of first gen experiences. I just because I have no little to no friends. So I have a few friends, but we don't really talk about these things. And I don't know people. I know my cousin's experience, but besides that, like you not knowing about or me you thinking about banks that way. I never really heard about that, so it was like something new. Like, oh, like people actually like this is like a belief that people have. So thank you for that. Yeah. So thank you everybody who's listening as well. Don't forget to leave a review in Spotify if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe, comment, like, share, all of that. And with all that said, thank you again, Sonia, and thank you all. Big hug, and send you a kiss or love wherever it is. But love all the time, and thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you.
Awesome. Uh, thank you so much. I don't know. We passed like more than an hour limit, so I'm so sorry.
I'm assuming, I don't know if you're gonna edit some parts out, or
No, it's all going in. Yeah. Yeah, it's all
yeah.
going in. I still don't record like in between. I mean, not record. I still don't edit in between. So it's just the beginning and the end, and it's like everything's going in for sure.
Alrighty. No worries. I'll be on the lookout whenever that's ready, so that way I can share
Yes,
with.
I'll send you. I'm really bad about this, but I keep like sending people the information like last minute, or yeah, pretty much last minute, and then the clips I also do it more than after that, because I just clips in general is complicated. But I'll definitely send
The
you.
same way. We recorded episodes and it was already live like for a week, and we just finally started promoting it. So believe me, me and Debbie, my co-host,
Yeah.
we're like,
No, for sure. Yeah. But I'll definitely.
we get it.
Yeah. I love this. I'll send you the email and the clips, and then the thumbnail. We could take the thumbnail. Let me just take out my headphones. And it'll be the recording, so I'll just freeze for like 3 seconds or something like that. Awesome. Alright.
Sure, Mac.
Fix our hairs. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Awesome.
Hopefully it looks good. So I don't know, I'm cheesing too hard, maybe.
No,
Okay.
you're good.
I do have a 10:30, so
Yeah. You're good.
I gotta wrap. I gotta get my stuff together before.
Yeah, you go for it. I'll see you.
It was nice meeting you. We gotta meet up in person.
Yes, actually, there's something I do want to talk about you, but since you're leaving, I'll send you a DM on my idea, and then we'll have another conversation afterwards.
All right.
All right.
Sounds like a
Awesome.
plan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.